Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Now Loading from PopNerdTV. I'm your host as always, Alex Thompson, and I have a returning guest with me, Johnathan Paul. It's happening again. Who knows? This might be his last time. It may come again.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Yeah. Anyways, this is Now Loading. All right,
Rewind.
We're doing Retro Rewind, and guys, we're going way back. So all you Patreon fans out there, you're in luck, because we're going back to August 6th, 1986.
Right.
The Nintendo Metroid. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, okay, starting this off, I'm just going to tell everyone, first and foremost, I never played this game as a kid. I didn't have a friend that owned this game even. Nowadays, it's kind of hard to find.
Right.
So I still don't have any. You're the only person I know that owns this game.
Has the game.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So the game, I have to say, I played it when I was a kid. Was not a fan.
Oh, really? Why was that?
I wasn't. It was cool. I thought it was great, but there were so many games for the NES at that time that I thought were just so much better.
Yeah.
And far more solid. It was good. It was a really good game. Don't get me wrong. It was cool, especially when you got to the end screen and you found out the entire time you were playing as a girl. You know, which was crazy back then, because this is '86, you know, and you've got, you know, a bunch of kids my age who are like 9, 10 years old playing this game, and then you sit there and you play through the game and you just think you're this awesome, like, you know, sci-fi, you know, space ranger, you know.
Yeah, named Samus. Right. That was cool. They did a smart thing there, and they kept it a gender-like neutral name right there.
Exactly.
So,
and so then when you get to the end of the game and you see she's a girl, you're like, what? You know, and you're just kind of like, you're kind of blown away at that point.
It's one of those iconic screens too that you see, like, even in just, like, you know, video game documentaries and everything else. It's one of all the armor pops off and then she like fades into view and you're just like, what?
Yeah. No. And you got to remember too, because this is like years and years before Lara Croft.
Right.
I mean, a full decade before Lara Croft came around. So that was a really cool thing to kind of see happen as a kid, because when Super Metroid came out, I mean, everybody was on board with Super Metroid, you know?
Yeah.
Because at this point, I was never a huge fan of the first Metroid. It felt clunky to me, and it still does feel clunky. It's still a pretty solid game. I know most reviews I've seen for it over the years kind of give it in the neighborhood of, you know, say, you know, a 6, a 6 out of 10, a 7 out of 10. So it's still, you know, it still gets rated pretty well, and the gameplay is solid, but you can tell that it's just not quite polished. Right? It's the gameplay, the foundation is there, but it's just not quite polished, and I think they really polished it up and got it ready for Super Metroid, because Super Metroid, that's the best.
Blew everything out of the water.
That's the best Metroid game I've ever played. And that's, you know, it's in my top 10 of all time, Super Metroid. So, yeah, you can totally see that the foundation and the pieces for Super Metroid are here in this game. It's just a little clunky, but yeah, you get the morph ball, you get the screw attack, you get somersaulting, which was, you know, I don't want to say completely unheard of at that time, but it was new, it was different. You know, you really didn't see that a whole lot in the Nintendo games at that time, and it was a success for Nintendo. You know, it did well. I mean, they made a sequel. They did Metroid 2.
They did multiple sequels.
Yeah, well, they did Metroid 2 right after that.
Right.
And then they came in and did Super Metroid, and then Metroid Prime, and then all of the rest.
Right.
And Metroid Fusion, and so on and so forth. So, which I am really, really stoked for a possible Metroid for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, I mean, they announced it. It's gonna happen. Yeah, we don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be something.
It's got to happen. But yeah, this game was great.
So some of the cool little facts about this, I know you were talking about it as being like a polished game or whatever.
Right.
There's some funny things, because a lot of it was they made things happen because they didn't have the time or they couldn't figure out how to do it or whatever. The little morph ball or whatever where she's crawling around or whatever was just a product of they couldn't figure out how to like make a sprite of where she's crawling on the ground or up the wall or anything else. So I mean,
which is great because they ended up using it
throughout. It's stuck.
And it's perfect.
Yeah. Now, some other funny little things is you know how it actually got the name Metroid?
No.
Okay, so they wanted to go with an Android because their original idea was just an Android or whatever, and then they took like a Metro subway and then they just combined the names because they rode Metro subways and whatnot.
That's cool.
Yeah, and they were just like, oh, Metroid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another little fun thing is game actually, it came out in Japan on the August 6th, and that's what we're talking about, the first one, and it was actually released for the Famicom Disk System.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, now see, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a release for the Famicom Disk System, and then when it was a month, or it wasn't even a month later, it was it was a year later, a year and a week later exactly.
Right.
In 1987, August 15th, they ported it to, the regular Nintendo in the States, and they went from that back into the cartridge.
Right.
And it switched.
Right.
But it's crazy to think that it was on the disk system back
originally.
in 1986.
Yes.
Yeah. The fact that even the original Nintendo had a disk system
at
is
that
just
time, in '86.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because remember, when you got a few years later when they were, ramping up after the Super Nintendo. Remember, Sony and Nintendo partnered together to create a new disc-based system, which ended up becoming the PlayStation after Nintendo and Sony parted ways. So that's kind of cool that it goes all the way back to '86, which is awesome.
Yeah. But I mean, okay. Did you have any friends that like swore by this game when you were a kid?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had a bunch. I mean, that was the kind of thing we talked about it just a little bit earlier, right? It's like at the lunch table, back then, that's how you found out how good these games were.
Exactly.
Because you didn't have like mass exposure of YouTube or
before your Nintendo power, before the internet, before even like TV shows about video games and stuff.
Right.
So.
I mean, you had to rely on your friends or just word of mouth for a lot of these games, or you had to go to a local video store and rent it.
Yeah.
And try it out.
Well, that was a lot of the thing, and I think that's something that you don't really see a whole lot of today is box art. Now, box art for this stuff was really cool.
Right.
And I remember going to the video game store and stuff, not knowing what the game was about, but the cover was like amazing. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try this game. It looks cool.
Sometimes.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
games out there that the box art was just crazy cool. You're like, yes, I have to play this game. Then you get the game, you're just like, what? It's like comics, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes there would be those days that you would go and you would go to the comic book shop and you'd look at this amazing art on the cover. Then you open up the cover and you start looking at the comic. You're like, wait a minute. That's not the same art that's on the cover. What is going on?
They pull in one good artist to do the cover and then they get some no-name guy to do the interiors. And it's like, whatever.
Exactly. I mean, this was not one of those games. This game, like I said, it's a solid game. I mean, I have my issues with it. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I didn't play it like crazy like I did a bunch of other, Nintendo games back in the day. But I did play through it and beat the game. And I, as a huge fan of Super Metroid, you can totally see the foundation for Super Metroid in this one.
It's just like we talked about. What was it? Last week? This past week, where with Yoshi Island or whatever, and then Yoshi's Story or whatever. How you can see a lot of the elements from that game going into that. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Cool, man. Do we want to do another retro game?
We can talk a little bit more.
There's one more game that came out on this week a few years back. Actually, more than a few years back.
It's 2006, man. Dead Rising. What was the exact date on this?
It was August 8th. Yep.
2006. I was a sophomore in high school.
Oh, man. Yeah. Game. So awesome.
Yeah, I remember one of my buddies got it for Christmas.
Right.
After it came, like that December after the August. And So I remember him inviting a whole bunch of us over, and he's like, hey, you gotta come check out this game or whatever, you know? We all go over there, and you can throw plates at zombies and do all kinds of weird stuff.
Katanas, you can get baseball bats, you can get whatever.
You can put a Lego head on yours.
Yeah. You could grab, if you play through the game, you could get the Mega Man suit. Remember that?
Okay, yeah.
You play through the game, and then you could get the Mega Man suit, and then play through the game with Mega Man. And it was just, man, I spent way too much time.
It was a game you could invest a lot of, and it wasn't even that you were mainly doing the missions or objectives or anything. You're just running around seeing what kind of cool stuff you can find to kill people with.
I remember, I don't know if you'll remember this, but I remember wanting to get the achievement for reaching like a certain number of dead zombies.
Oh yeah.
And so I remember getting in a car and going down into the parking garage, and I spent a week
just mowing people over?
Just mowing these zombies down in the garage, just trying to up my body count on that game. I was like, God, man, this game was great. It was so fun. And I didn't like, I wasn't a super fan of Dead Rising 2, but actually liked Dead Rising 3. I really enjoyed that game. And the new ones that just came out, really super stoked on those. But this one, I think, is still by far my favorite in the entire series, without a doubt.
See, this was the main one that I probably played, because after that, I actually worked at a video game store that was bankrupt now, but that was connected to Hollywood Video or whatever, Game Crazy. And I remember going and renting this game and just keep picking it up because I got free rentals or whatever, you know? So I just remember just repeatedly going and getting the game. Yeah, the thing about it was, though, is, like I said, I had more fun just killing zombies and stuff than doing the other stuff. And that was the thing. You'd invite friends over, and I mean, like, sure, you can go do the missions or whatever, but most of the time your friends are sitting there like, oh, what does that do? What is this, you know?
Right. No, this was a great game. I had so much fun with this one. I thought the story was great, and what was really cool about it too, because just remember 2 years before this, Dawn of the Dead, Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead came out, and so you had this whole new push
for the zombie
craze, right? Because it kind of started with Resident Evil, and it was kind of on the cusp, and then all of a sudden you had Dawn of the Dead, Shaun of the Dead,
Walking Dead, and everything,
just everything, and it just kind of blew up. So it was perfect timing for this game, and it was really good. The controls are great.
Yep.
For the time when this came out, the graphics didn't blow you away, but they were still solid.
And this game was unique. That was the thing. The main thing about it is, I can't recall another zombie game where you just run around and just do whatever, like.
Right. And the blood and gore in the game was just insane. Just absolutely insane.
I think one of the craziest things, though, is when you end up turning a corner and you have to get somewhere, and there's like the massive mob, and you're like, okay, how do I get there?
Yes. Just like, wait a minute, okay. And because remember the weapons that you had, remember they would slowly deteriorate over time. So if you had to go through those
like mass mob,
you had to make sure that you were packed and ready to go.
Or you were planning it out and you were like, okay, I'm going to run to this place and then pick this up and I'm going to run over here. Yeah.
I know you had guns and weapons and things like that.
They weren't that useful at all.
I totally did not use those. I was using the sword and baseball bats and just makeshift stuff that I could find whenever I could find it.
I don't want to sit there and miss with my shot, and then I'm down a bullet, and when I could just, if I swing something, then it's fine.
Start swinging away and start killing stuff, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
good game.
Yeah, very good. It's kind of cool, too, because it's a Capcom game also.
Yeah,
exactly. Mega Man and this.
Yeah,
Capcom puts out good stuff.
Yeah, Capcom this week.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool, man.
Well, I mean, I guess that's going to conclude this episode. Yeah.
Sweet.
I mean, unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
No.
All right.
We can let's save some stuff because we've got, I think, here pretty soon we're going to have to talk to the people about our new show, Classic Game Fan.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Let's hold off on that for a little while and we'll totally get it.
There's your little teaser.
Yeah, a little teaser for sure. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, you can check us out on YouTube, obviously. Be sure to like and subscribe to our videos.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, if you're not a Patreon subscriber already, go check out our Patreon. We do retro rewinds and talk about old games all the time.
Right.
Yeah, which is really cool. I like the retro part of it because that's where I'm used to it, and I think me and you can reminisce on a bunch of nostalgia there.
Yeah, which is going to be great because, like I said, when we get Classic Game Fan going, it's going to be It's gonna be awesome.
Nostalgia overload,
Yeah, it's
right?
gonna be great.
Also, go check out PopNerdTV.com because we have articles, we have reviews, we have all kinds of cool stuff on there. And if you want like the first look on everything that comes out, I mean, it's gonna be there.
Right.
Also,
right.
you want to tell them about the store?
Yeah, so the store we finally have the now loading shirts. The hats are coming, everything.
There is a hat.
Oh, so we have the hat.
There's a hat now.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted the hat up there. I didn't know if it was already.
There's hats, there's pillowcases, there's phone cases,
Okay, good.
there's shirts.
Good. I love the pattern shirt. That's my
Yeah.
favorite, and we totally have to get us those patterns.
Yes, we do.
So I'm gonna try and get those in here so we can kind of model them for the.
Right, we'll show them off for you.
Right,
See
for
this
sure.
sexy man right here.
For sure. But yeah, no, the PopNerdTV store, follow us on Patreon for sure.
Yeah.
We're going to start pushing some new content through
Right.
Patreon. So if you join Patreon, you'll be able to watch these episodes like this before anybody else.
Yep.
And then we'll have certain content that we're going to start doing to where you'll be able to get to see some of our content a full week before anybody else. So,
Super exclusive stuff
yeah,
too,
it's gonna be
man.
good.
Lots of good stuff.
Yep.
So, I guess that's gonna call it for
That's
this
it.
week. Hey, we'll see you next Monday on Now Loading. I'm Alex Thompson.
I'm Johnathan Paul.
We'll see you later.
Bye, guys.